most of us are familiar with the idea that narcissists all seem to be reading from the same playbook. And there's certainly no exception to that when it comes to the sneaky things that they will say to keep us around. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I am not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. So I really had to keep reining myself back in on this as I brainstormed a bunch of things that narcissists seem to all be saying. I wanted to keep this video on the theme of things that they say to keep us around, things that they say to keep us stuck. And wow, there's a lot of sneaky things, manipulative things that they say that can venture outside of this topic, and that made me realize that I should maybe do a series on this. But for this video, I'm going to go over the things they say to keep us around, and this is going to apply to different stages of the relationship. There are things that they say to keep us around during the good parts of the relationship, the stable stages of the relationship, as kind of a preventative maintenance. And then of course, there are things that they say to keep us around when we're trying to leave. Or there are things that they say to maintain control of us while they're also devaluing and abusing us. The purpose of this video is to present you with these common things that might be being said to you so that you can look at them from a different angle and maybe have a little more clarity in these things that are being thrown at you. Because when you're in the middle of this storm, when these things are actually being said to you in real life, in a real relationship, it can be really hard to see them for what they are. It can be really easy to kind of get sucked into the manipulation and to really buy into it and to be confused. So I hope that I can clarify things for you if this is happening to you, if you're hearing these sorts of things in your day-to-day life, and maybe it can just be that much easier for you to understand what's really happening. So without further ado, let's start with the love bombing stage. Let's start with the part of the relationship where everything is seemingly going wonderfully. What are some things that narcissists will commonly say? Oh, and I want to say, this doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. This could be a friendship. It could even be a business relationship. These same sorts of things could be happening in cult-like environments or high control groups. Any environment or relationship in which your emotions are being controlled, in which you're, in a sense, being brainwashed or guilted into feeling like you have to stay in this relationship. The first sneaky thing that you might be hearing that actually sounds really nice is, "You're not like all the others," or some variation of that. "Wow, no one's ever understood me the way that you have." "Wow, you're so much more fun than so-and-so," or "You're so much smarter, you're so much more dependable. I've never met anyone quite like you." This sounds really nice, doesn't it? But it can really keep you feeling like you found somebody that finally really appreciates you. And that can keep you stuck in the relationship in the beginning stages when something like this really isn't an appropriate thing to say at this point in the relationship. If somebody's telling you that they've never met anyone quite like you, and they're insinuating that everyone before you has been a huge disappointment, that's a big red flag. If somebody is making you feel like one of a kind, like they've never met anyone that can hold a candle to you, unless they're 15 years old, that's kind of concerning, isn't it? Doesn't that imply that everyone they've known up until that point in their life has been some sort of disappointment, hasn't met their expectations? And don't you think that maybe it's actually a problem with them? Maybe it's not that you're special. Maybe it's just that they hope that you're going to be that one magical, perfect fantasy person that's going to meet their impossible expectations, and that so far you seem to be doing all right. So they're going to want to keep you around and keep you trying to hit that mark by telling you that you've done so. This could become something like, what would I do without you? I'd be so lost without you. Or maybe just doing things that make you feel like they can't function without you. This can be a really dangerous trap to fall in, especially if you have codependent tendencies and you end up with somebody that ends up depending on you for certain things. You might feel obligated really quickly to stay around because this person would just be totally lost without you and wouldn't know which way was up if you were to leave. If they were able to survive before they knew you, they can survive after. Here's another one that sounds kind of cute. You drive me crazy, but I love you. You just drive me nuts sometimes, but I'm really glad that you're in my life. Maybe some people say this with good intentions, but I think this is the most backhanded compliment because people might disagree with me, but I don't think that someone that you're in a good, healthy relationship should be, quote, driving you nuts. We all get on each other's nerves sometimes, but I don't think that somebody that you really care about, that you have a good relationship with, should actually be driving you nuts. And I know that this might be said as it's kind of a cute exaggeration, but I don't think this is a really nice thing to say to somebody that you love. It's kind of like saying, wow, there's a whole bunch of problems with you, but that's okay. I love you anyway. I was in a relationship in which this was said to me very often when things were going good. And I know I'm not perfect, but I remember that when this was said to me, I would think, what does he mean? What specifically am I doing that's driving him crazy? Because as a people pleaser and as a codependent abuse victim that didn't realize what kind of situation I was actually in, I was bending over backwards every day trying to make this person happy. I was doing everything I could to try to appease this person. And then this person comes out and says, wow, you drive me crazy, but I love you. And I would just think, I drive you crazy? I wouldn't push back, I would always be like, oh, thanks. But I remember feeling confused. Like, what do you mean I drive you crazy? I literally spend all day, every day trying not to drive you crazy, and I don't know what you're talking about. Please tell me. But of course, there's never anything specific. It's just, you drive me crazy. It's just, you're not good enough yet. It's just, something's really wrong with you, but I still love you. And then this kind of implies very subtly that I'm putting up with you. Nobody else would put up with you because you drive people crazy, but I put up with you because I love you. And that can make you a little on edge and just very subtly suggest to you that you're lucky that this person loves you so much that they're willing to put up with how crazy you make them. Here's another one. It's a good thing you're pretty, or it's a good thing you're fill in the blank. And this one could even get a little bit vulgar and offensive. But it's a good thing that is a very backhanded compliment, and something like this is going to come a little later, a little closer to the devaluation stage, because this is not a nice thing to say. I felt like I kind of had to qualify what I meant by you drive me crazy, but saying something like this, there's no qualifying. That's just a really rude, rotten thing to say. If you're saying it's a good thing you're pretty, you're basically saying that's your only redeeming feature. Everything else about you is crap, and if you weren't pretty, you'd be worthless. And any kind of demeaning comment like this can really make you feel stuck in the relationship and really make you feel like you don't have that many options. You might also hear, I need to be able to trust you, or I need to know that you're committed. These phrases hold a very subtle kind of threat to them. You need to prove to me that I can trust you because I'm not sure if I can. You need to prove to me that you're committed because I'm not quite sure that you are. You can't ask someone to prove that you are trustworthy. You can't ask someone to prove that you're committed. It's something that you demonstrate as time goes by in the relationship. And if enough time has gone by, if years have gone by, and this person still is saying things like, I need to be able to trust you. I need to know I can trust you. I need to know you're committed. I need to know that you're all in. I need to know that you're serious about this. If they're still questioning these things after years of a relationship, then that's not a healthy relationship, and that's not something that you're ever going to be able to demonstrate your way out of. That's a problem with them. If you are untrustworthy, you will have demonstrated it by then. And if you're untrustworthy, you're untrustworthy. And if you are trustworthy, you would have demonstrated it by then. And if they can't trust your clear demonstration of your commitment and your trustworthiness, there's nothing else that you can do about that. And saying this to someone who's eager to please is just a way to keep them on that hamster wheel, to keep them chasing that dangling carrot. Like, oh, I gotta prove it. I gotta prove that I'm trustworthy. I gotta prove I haven't quite proved it yet. I've got to try a little harder. And that can keep you stuck. That can keep you around. Now I want to shift gears a little and go into some things that you're going to hear as you try to distance yourself from the relationship or leave. These phrases are bound to get more ugly. They're bound to make you feel more guilt, more shame, more stuck in a relationship that at this point now you actually don't want to be in anymore. Now you want to get free of this. And these phrases are going to keep you stuck in the relationship out of guilt or out of fear or out of a misguided, desperate attempt to clear up a misunderstanding, which is usually not really a misunderstanding. So let's get into it. I need you, or I need you now more than ever. Now, this could actually be said too when things are going well. I need you, but they're going to pull this out when you're trying to leave. And I mean, this is a pretty transparent one. Somebody that has not appreciated you, someone that hasn't seemed to care about your feelings or to care about anything that has anything to do with you, suddenly they need you. Suddenly they can't go on without you. And when they say this, when they get in a desperate type of mindset, they might actually believe this, that they need you, but make no mistake, they don't need you. They need someone. And when they say, I need you, they're just saying that because they do feel a desperate need and they do feel a loss of control. And it's a very, very distressing feeling to them, but it's not your problem and it's not personal. They don't need you. They need to control their world. And you're part of that. They need to control you. They need to control something. So don't let this phrase make you feel like you're special, like you're going to be appreciated finally if you stick around because they can finally see how much they need you. This can also be said when they say something like, I need you more now than ever. How can you abandon me now that I need you? Of course, just to guilt you, just to make you feel like you've been asking them for so long to behave in whatever way, however amount of decency you've been begging for, and they'll make you feel like, oh, you want me to, just for instance, you want me to stop drinking. Oh, but I can't do that if you're going to leave me. That's going to be 10 times harder. I was just going to stop drinking, but now you're leaving me. I need your help with this. And you might actually fall for this thinking, oh, they're finally going to do what I've been asking, but only if I stay. Don't fall for that. Of course, there's the classic, nobody could ever love you as much as I can. And this can be taken two different ways. Either I love you so much. I love you so much. Nobody in this world could ever possibly love you as much as I do. Or it could be, you are so hard to love. There is so much wrong with you that nobody else could ever love you like me. I mean, I could kind of see past all of the horrible things about you, but nobody else is going to. You're really lucky that I love you. Those are kind of two sides of that coin. And of course, they're both very toxic. Somebody that says this to you probably doesn't really love you at all, ironically, because somebody that really loves you, somebody that really sees the value in you and appreciates you, isn't going to have a thought in their head of, well, I'm the only one that could ever love this person. No, they're going to see how great you are. They're going to see how lovable you are. And they're going to clearly see that lots of people would love you because they do. And then there's, you don't even care about me. And this is probably a more immature one, although there's no age limit to this one. You don't even care about me. And this will really trigger a lot of people with the, yes, of course I care, because you've probably spent an enormous amount of energy trying to show this person how much you care, trying to help whatever it is you're trying to help, bending over backwards, and to be told you don't even care is just, it's the biggest slap in the face, and it's extremely frustrating, hurtful, and it can really throw you into kind of a panic. It can really throw you into a little bit of a frenzy of, what? No, of course I care. And now you're kind of in this trap of, well, if I walk out, if I leave, then that proves them right. That proves I don't care, right? Honestly, you really have to get to a point in this toxic of a relationship where you're willing to say, yeah, you're right, I don't care. Regardless of whether or not you do, of course you care to a point, or you wouldn't have stuck around as long as you did. But it doesn't matter, because somebody that's going to say something like this to you, they're the one that doesn't care. And they're just saying this to manipulate you. Of course they know that you care. They know you care. You don't have to prove it to them. It's just that they don't care that you care. They're just going to use it against you, use it to manipulate you, because they know that it's really going to get under your skin. So the best thing you can do is just look them dead in the eye and say, yeah, you're right, I don't. Then they can start to get into things like, you're just like everyone else. I knew that you'd eventually abandon me. I knew I couldn't trust you. I knew my friends were right about you when they warned me. I thought you were different. Again, just meaningless, but this can really tug at you. This can really bother you, because again, you've probably spent an enormous amount of effort and energy into trying to prove how much you care, and to try to prove how, quote, different you are from all of those horrible people that you've heard so much about. You're different, right? This goes way back to the beginning of the relationship, when you were told that you were special, that finally somebody gets it. Someone knows how to treat a person. You're the best thing that's ever happened. Finally, someone that's not a huge disappointment. Well, now here you are, just another disappointment, right? Because it's not you, it's them. Everyone's eventually going to disappoint a narcissistic person, and you're no exception, regardless of whether or not they made you feel like you were one. And now that you're trying to get out of this pointless, hopeless, draining, thankless relationship, now you're being told, I knew it. You're just like all those other people. You know what? You probably are just like all those other people. And all those other people were probably decent, well-meaning, caring people that really gave it everything they had. And you probably are just like them. And I don't really know what this one's all about, but I have noticed a pattern where when a narcissist starts to feel the heat building, they will ask you, what can I do to help? Or what do I do that I need to change? Or let me list off all of your faults. Well, what are my faults? And this might seem like they're trying to work with you, like they're trying to solve relationship problems, but don't be fooled. This is really a way to say, verbalize what's wrong. Tell me why you want to leave. Tell me to my face what the problems are, so I can tell you why you're wrong, so that I know what I'm fighting against. And of course, this is the part they're not going to say out loud. So that I can understand what's going on in your mind, so that I can somehow string you along and fool you into thinking that things are actually better. I want to know what specifically is bothering you. And of course, narcissistic abuse is not easy to verbalize. If I'm being yelled at and picked on and tortured every day because of, I don't know, the way that I fold my laundry, that's something specific. You don't fold your laundry the right way. You don't brush your teeth with the right kind of toothpaste. those are specific things. But when that person's asking me, what do I do that needs improvement? And I don't know how to verbalize it. You're mean. You're just a mean, impatient, thoughtless, selfish, rude person. I can't really say you use the wrong kind of toothpaste. I have this really subjective, hurtful, frustrating thing that's really hard to verbalize and that can be easily denied. If you throw out the things that are actually bothering you, then you're going to get things back like, oh, well, I wouldn't get so angry if you would just fold your laundry the right way, so that's your fault. So try again. What else do I do that bothers you? Well, you're really selfish. Oh, well, and of course they're just going to find ways to minimize and invalidate all of your concerns. And then they can go back and say, I care about the relationship. I'm trying to work with you. I've even sat down and asked you about ways that I can improve. And of course, I've invalidated and dismissed every single concern that you have, but I asked you. Here's one that I really hate. You're running away from your problems. Or there's that meme that I've seen. Back in my day, we didn't throw away something when it was broken. We fixed it. Ugh. I mean, that's great if you're with a reasonable person, but when you're in an abusive relationship, you should run away from that problem. It's okay to quit. It's okay to throw things away that are hurting you. You're not obligated to stay in a situation in which you're being tortured or used and manipulated and unappreciated. There's no reward for that. The other person's going to benefit for as long as they feel like it until they find something better and just dump you and leave you high and dry. But there's nothing in it for you. There's no reason to stay and torture yourself. And there's this fallacy of a sunk cost. If you've spent a bunch of time and energy or money or anything, if you've really devoted yourself and just poured yourself into a relationship or maybe a business situation, it's really hard to walk away from it the more that you've put into it. And this, you're running away from your problem, you're quitting, you're throwing in the towel, you're not facing up to what you said you were going to face up to, you're not finishing what you started. This can just add to this fear and this discomfort of, oh my gosh, I've already tried so hard, I can't give up now, I don't want to be a quitter. There's a point where you have to be reasonable with yourself and you have to cut your losses. And there's no shame in doing that. It actually takes a lot of courage to look at something that you've devoted so much to and to be able to say, I just need to stop. I need to stop putting anything else into this. I didn't realize how much you meant to me until now. I think this one's pretty transparent. I mean, you know what? If it took this long, if it takes you leaving the relationship for somebody to finally appreciate you, I mean, what if you really got there? As soon as you give up and go back, then the heat's off and then you're just going to go right back to being unappreciated. And this person's going to go right back to not realizing how much they need you because the heat's off, the pressure's off. So please don't let that one fool you into thinking that this person suddenly had some great epiphany. They've known what they've had all along. They don't appreciate or care about love. They don't appreciate and care about somebody with character, somebody that really cares about the really important, valuable things in life. They don't care about those things. They care about what they're going to get right now, right this moment. And if they can say, I didn't realize how much you meant to me until now, and saying that is going to get them their immediate needs met, then they're going to say it. It doesn't actually mean anything. Oh, here's one. I'm willing to fight for us. This doesn't really mean anything. And I mean, there's different variations to this. It's like, let me pretend to be a warrior for our relationship. Let me grandstand and pretend that I'm going to go the distance and I'm going to fight for us And this really will guilt you into feeling like, oh, well, I guess I better fight for us too. I mean, I don't want to be somebody that doesn't fight for us. When really, this doesn't mean anything. You shouldn't have to fight for a relationship that has anything worth saving in it. And I know some people are going to disagree with me on that, but after everything I've been through, that is truly how I feel. That's my opinion. If you really have to fight and try really, really hard and fight to keep a relationship together, I mean, you probably have some really serious problems that, I mean, for me at this point in my life, forget it. And when they say this, they're not really fighting. They're grandstanding. They're saying something that sounds good, and then they're putting the pressure back on you. They're putting the ball back in your court. Like, well, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna fight for us? But what does that even mean? What does it mean to fight for us? It really just means don't leave. Don't give up. Just stick around and let me keep torturing you forever. Fight for us. Okay, now, I shouldn't have saved this for towards the end, but what about everything I've done for you? Narcissistic, abusive, and manipulative people will do very generous things at all different stages in the relationship, and they'll do it so that they can say this to you when they need to. They'll do it so that they can pull this out of their arsenal when they need to. What about all the things I've done for you? And they very well may have done some really great things for you. And I just want to remind you that nobody has a right to abuse you. No one has a right to mistreat you. It doesn't matter what they've done for you. No matter how great it is, you cannot purchase the right to abuse people. There is nothing you can do that's going to earn you the right to be cruel and manipulative and abusive. It just doesn't work that way. And if you're with someone that doesn't understand that, if you're with someone that's going to pull this out and guilt you and make you feel like you're obligated to stay with somebody that mistreats you because of some things that they've done for you, you can't really reason with someone like that. And I hope that you can see that you're not obligated to stay with somebody that mistreats you, and that it doesn't matter what they've done. Things don't balance out that way. That's not the way that relationships work. You have to treat people with respect. You have to have a certain level of kindness and care and communication in order to keep a relationship together. You can't do some grand gestures and be generous and do all these favors and then say, okay, great, I've built up that bank account. Now I can be a total jerk and use this person and abuse them, and they can't leave because I've earned my right to treat them like crap. It just doesn't work that way. And lastly, and this one's a really, really dark one, but when they will threaten to harm themselves, when they will tell you and make you feel like they need you around so much, and that if you leave, they're going to be so devastated that they're not going to be able to go on living anymore, and that they're going to harm themselves. And if somebody is threatening to harm themselves, you need to call somebody that can deal with it on a professional level, such as the police. This is a very serious situation that you're not trained to handle. This is no joke, nothing to kid around with, and it's nothing that you can fix. It's not your job. And if they're just saying it to manipulate you, and you call the authorities, or you call a crisis line, or you call the police and you get them involved, they're probably not going to do that anymore. And if they're not just kidding around, well, now they've got some help that can actually help them. You can't help somebody in that kind of a situation. You're not trained to deal with that, especially if you're emotionally immersed in the situation, and especially if this person has some sort of power imbalance and an abusive dynamic with you. This is just nothing that anyone should ever feel obligated to handle, and it's not something that you can fix or solve. It's not your job, it's not your responsibility, and it's all the more reason to get away from the situation. Whew, this one went way longer than I was planning, but I hope that some of this was helpful, and I think I'm going to do some more sneaky things narcissists say to make you feel guilty. I don't know. If you have any ideas, leave them in the comments below for different varieties of this same theme. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.